Well guys, we did it. We just hit 100 subscribers. Thank you guys so much. This kind of came as a surprise to me because I was just at like 53 subscribers like 3 days ago. So to celebrate 100 subscribers, I had the very unoriginal idea to tell you guys the story of how I became a coaster enthusiast. My whole life I've had Dollywood as my home park, and me and my family would go there quite often. Most enthusiasts will normally tell you something like, oh, I was scared to go on coasters until I rode this coaster, or something like that. But I just have never had that fear that most enthusiasts have had at some point. Now, don't get me wrong, I would still get nervous to ride coasters for the very first time, but after I rode it once, I would have already conquered my fear and I would not be scared to go on it again. I can remember for the very first time I rode Wild Eagle, and I was scared to death, and I even almost chickened out of going on it. But after going on it once, I conquered my fear and I was no longer scared of it anymore. The same thing happened on pretty much all the other coasters too. I even almost chickened out on like Hulk at Islands of Adventure, and now looking back, I'm so glad I didn't chicken out on it because I haven't been back since. I didn't go on Velocicoaster because we went the week before it opened, but I got to ride everything else like Hagrid's, Hulk, Mummy, and boy am I glad I didn't chicken out on those. But my first big coaster that I went on was Mystery Mine. I remember going on it for the very first time and I loved it. My favorite part was always the second inversion because I absolutely loved and still do love the hang time you get on it. Something else that was always cool about the ride was it had 2 vertical lifts. These lifts really intimidated me, and it gave a sense of adrenaline, which made the ride even better. The theming is another thing that gave me a sense of adrenaline. Going through this dark mine shaft with birds chirping, random drops, and even a fire effect at one point made it one of my favorite rides. I have memories of going to Dollywood and just lapping Mystery Mine over and over and over. And the same thing with other rides like Wild Eagle and Joker's Jinx at Six Flags America. But the coaster I can mainly credit for getting me into coasters was Fire Chaser Express. I'm sure I would have also loved like Dragonflyer and Big Bear Mountain as a kid, but both of those coasters didn't open up until I was tall enough to ride everything at the park, so I didn't really get to ride it as a kid. The thing I've always loved about Fire Chaser was the backwards launch. I absolutely loved going backwards at such a high speed. The coaster wasn't too intense, but the launches and the effects are what made it my favorite. After nearly chickening out of mini coasters at Dollywood, while we were going to Six Flags America, I conquered more coasters and took a step closer to becoming an enthusiast. My first coaster there was the Wild one, and despite that coaster being literally like 100 years old, I do remember liking it a lot. I did some more coasters there such as Fireball and Roar, before going on to do Joker's Jinx. This was the most powerful launch of any coaster I'd ever been on so far, either that or Lightning Rod, but I remember getting off and I loved it. My favorite part was by far the launch. I loved it so much, and the park was so dead that I just walked back on and rode it a couple more times after that. But after getting stuck on the brake run for about 10 minutes, I decided to go ride something else. I decided to ride Firebird, and despite nearly getting a concussion on it, I remember I actually liked it. After one ride, I went over and rode Mind Eraser. I didn't know this at the time, but many enthusiasts such as Theme Park Crazy consider this to be one of the worst coasters in the world due to how rough it is. Me and my family didn't know this obviously, so we were kind of confused when we got there and there was literally nobody in the station waiting to ride it. So we walked straight on and I got the front row. I got off what was considered by many to be one of the roughest coasters in the world. I actually liked it, so I decided to walk right back on and ride it again. Yeah, I have no idea what the hate around that ride is. But after that, I decided it was time to ride the tallest coaster I'd ever been on up to that point, Superman Ride of Steel. I got into the station and I waited for the front row. After getting off with many bugs in my system after accidentally swallowing them on the ride, I loved it. All I wanted to do was ride Superman again and again and again. So that's exactly what I did. After many rides on Superman and being very disappointed because Batwing was closed all day, I went home and I had lost most of my fear for roller coasters, making me love them even more. My favorite sensation that I would get on coasters when I was younger was always speed. My favorite coaster was always Lightning Rod because of its launch and the speed that you get on it after its first drop. This is also why I love Superman Ride of Steel so much. Just something about the wind in my face and the feeling like I was flying made it my favorite. I kind of feel like one of the reasons why I always rode the big coasters was because whenever we go to a theme park, I would always be the one sitting out while everyone else rides the bigger rides because I was too short. So when the time came and I was tall enough, I finally got the chance to ride a coaster I've been wanting to ride for so long. And then after getting off, I would feel so accomplished, and then I would just lap the ride over and over. I still was never an enthusiast though. But one of the things I did in my free time a lot was watch Coaster Force POVs. I wouldn't research anything like coaster stats, manufacturers, or anything like that. I just remember going onto his channel and watching all of the POVs he made. I also always looked up roller coasters that I've already ridden and watched those POVs a lot. Fast forward to 2020. Like everyone else, I was stuck inside for almost a year. During this time, I gained my coaster knowledge quite well, but I still was not an enthusiast. Then into 2022, and that is when I found Coaster Journey and Zero G Coasters YouTube channels. These are the two channels that I can mainly credit in how I became an enthusiast, along with Coaster Force obviously. I started to watch these channels more and more, and before you know it, by the beginning of 2023, I was an addict. I waited until summer to start my channel because I, 1, did not have a computer to make videos on, and 2, I didn't have the basic stuff like a mic, so I couldn't record my voice. I did chores to earn money and spent it on gears to make videos with, and now here we are. I have 100 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for all the support recently on this channel. I did not expect to grow this fast. I hope you guys like this video, and I'll just see you in the next one.